Now, Anacin, the tablets thousands of physicians and dentists recommend for fast relief of pain of headache, neuritis, neuralgia, and Vicodol Mints, that quickly rid stomach of gastric distress, present Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. It's time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks Transcribed. But first, believe anything you like about what this or that way to relieve pain of headache, neuritis, or neuralgia will do for you. But there is one important fact you can't get away from, and that is thousands of users of Anacin have been introduced to this remarkable product through their own physicians or dentists. These people know how incredibly fast and effectively Anacin acts to relieve pain. Anacin is like a doctor's prescription. That is, Anacin contains not just one, but a combination of medically proven active ingredients in easy-to-take tablet form. Next time you suffer from the pain of a headache, neuritis, or neuralgia, don't wait for relief. Try Anacin. You'll be delighted with these tablets' incredibly fast action. Try Anacin on this guarantee. If the first few Anacin tablets do not give you all the relief you want as fast as you want it, return the unused portion and your money will be refunded. All drug counters have Anacin in handy boxes of 12 and 30 tablets and economical family-size bottles of 50 and 100. I'll repeat the name for you, Anacin, A-N-A-C-I-N. Well, if persistence alone can earn a high grade, you've got to give our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, an A for effort. It's taken almost 6 years, but this weekend she arranged to have Mr. Boynton, Madison's shy biology teacher, all to herself.
Yes, indeed. This time I absolutely put my foot down. It was just Mr. Boynton and me and 500 delegates to the Teachers' Convention. You see, over the past weekend, a special meeting was held in Evanston to help celebrate American Education Week. I had persuaded Mr. Conklin, our beloved principal, to send me, along with Mr. Boynton, as Madison's representatives. And Friday morning, my landlady came into my bedroom just as I finished packing for the trip.
You know, Connie, it looks just like cowhide.
I know, I haven't put on my makeup yet. Oh, you mean the valise. It is nice, isn't it? I borrowed it from Mrs. Rapp down the street.
Have you got everything packed, Connie?
I think so. Let's see. The nightie Harriet Conklin loaned me is in, and Mrs. Conklin's negligee, that's in. Your nylon stockings are in. Yes, I've got my things all packed.
Good.
And just wait till you see the new suit I'm wearing for the occasion. Of course, I won't be able to put that on until 5:15 today.
Why not, Connie?
Tilly Eberhardt doesn't get home from work until then.
You're terribly excited about this weekend trip, aren't you, dear?
Oh, of course, Mrs. Davis. This is quite an important convention. I'll get an opportunity to exchange ideas and opinions with other people in my line of work. I'll get an opportunity to see what's being accomplished at other schools.
What else will you get, Connie?
I'll get all my expenses paid and a whack at Mr. Boynton.
That will be nice. You and Mr. Boynton seeing strange places and strange faces together.
The strange places are all right, but the strange faces can go to the races.
There's one thing that puzzles me, Connie. Knowing your relationship with Mr. Conklin, how did he happen to choose you as a delegate?
Well, it's very simple, Mrs. Davis. Remember 2 weeks ago, Mr. Conklin got himself a new gray flannel suit?
Yes, indeed. His wife, Martha, told me he spent a small fortune on it.
I'm glad it was a small fortune. I spilled a small bottle of ink on it Monday.
You didn't.
He now has gray flannel pants and a very sporty blue jacket. Anyway, on Tuesday, he left his wristwatch on his desk, and I accidentally brushed it to the floor while I was picking up some papers. Then when I bent down to get it, I broke the crystal.
But a crystal is easily repaired.
Not when you break it by putting your heel through the back of the watch.
But, Connie, I don't understand. Why did Mr. Conklin pick you for the convention this weekend?
Well, I was just getting to that, Mrs. Davis. You see, Mr. Conklin's buying a new pair of glasses this morning, and he wants to give them a 3-day head start.
Sounds logical. Well, I know another English teacher at Madison who'll be mighty disappointed that she's not going on this trip.
You mean Miss Enright?
I do. She's almost as sweet on Mr. Boynton as you are. And this weekend trip would be a wonderful opportunity for her to cut you out with him.
Please, Mrs. Davis, I just got up. Why talk about nightmares? No more pencils, no more books, no more...
Wait for me, Miss Brooks.
Well, Walter Denton, why didn't you pick me up this morning? You know my car's in the repair shop.
So's mine. Yesterday when I started for home, it happened.
What happened?
As soon as I stepped on the starter, the exhaust pipe blew the rest of the car into Hirsch's Meat Market.
That's awful, Walter.
Yeah, anyway, I'm glad I caught you before you dropped into Mr. Boynton's biology lab.
What made you think I was going to drop into the biology lab?
Yo, please, Miss Brooks, it's too early in the morning for quips. Yeah, what I meant was I thought I could save you from a big disappointment.
Oh, that's all right. I'm used to him by now. I mean, what kind of disappointment?
Mr. Boynton isn't in school. What's more, he isn't coming to school today.
What? But we're supposed to leave from here for the convention.
Yeah, I know it, Miss Brooks, and I know how devastated you'll be by the news, but Mr. Boynton won't be able to go to the convention. He's sick in bed.
Sick in bed? How do you know?
Harriet told me. He called in a little while ago and left a message with one of the teachers.
But how can I leave town if Mr. Boynton is sick? He has no more relatives in this part of the world than I have. Who'll take care of him?
Let me put your mind completely at ease, Miss Brooks. Harriet and I can run errands for Mr. Boynton. Besides, I'm sure Miss Enright will be glad to nurse him back to health.
Walter, you couldn't have put my mind more at ease if you'd told me my train was going to be bombed.
You're not exactly smitten with Miss Enright, are you, Miss Brooks?
Well, frankly, Walter, there isn't a lot of affection squandered between us.
Well, she always speaks highly of you, Miss Brooks. Why, just the other day, Miss Enright said the only reason she can't see a romantic attachment between Mr. Boynton and yourself is because of the difference in your ages.
Miss Enright said that?
Sure. Well, let's see now. What were her exact words? Oh, yeah, I remember. She said that in her opinion, Mr. Boynton was definitely old enough to be your kid brother.
Oh, she did she? Well, that makes my next step quite apparent. If you'll excuse me, Walter, I'm going right over to the principal's office.
What for?
I've got to see a man about a cat.
Come in.
Good morning, Mr. Conklin.
Don't come any closer, Miss Brooks.
But, sir,
If you take one more step, I'll call for help.
What in the world are you talking about, Mr. Conklin?
I've got my new glasses on, Miss Brooks, and I mean to protect them with my life.
Mr. Conklin, your glasses are reposing firmly on your nose, and I'm nowhere near you.
That is how it always starts. You weren't near me when you spilled that ink on my flannel suit either, or when you smashed my watch, or last month when you dropped the typewriter on my toes, or last week when you closed the office door on my nose.
Oh, I meant to ask you about that, Mr. Conklin. Was that door ever fixed?
You will be pleased to know, I'm sure, that thanks to your valiant efforts, I have become one of the poorest accident insurance risks in this part of the state. I won't draw an easy breath until you're on the train this afternoon. I presume you're packed and ready to go.
Yes, sir, and I'm really looking forward to it. This is the first convention I've attended since I represented Gordon High School 6 years ago. That was a lot of fun.
Well, you are not going to this convention to have fun, Miss Brooks. As Madison's standard bearer, our school will be judged by your actions. Always remember that.
Oh, I will, Mr. Conklin. You can depend on me, sir. I won't get myself thrown into jail this time.
Jail? You mean you were thrown into jail at your last convention?
Oh, for the most absurd reason, Mr. Conklin. Can you imagine being locked up for riding around on a motorcycle?
Well, that's hardly a jail offense.
That's exactly what I told the policeman. Besides, he wasn't using it at the time anyway.
You took a policeman's motorcycle?
It was just a lark, sir. There was absolutely no reason for them to put that picture in the paper.
What picture?
A picture of me holding up a burlesque queen in the drunk tank.
Miss Brooks, you can start unpacking at any time. You are not going to the convention.
Not going? But, Mr. Conklin, think of your new glasses.
My glasses will have to live dangerously like the rest of my person.
But if you don't send me, sir, who will you send?
Well, I haven't given it any thought. Have you any suggestions?
I haven't given it any thought either, Miss Enright.
Miss Enright might be just the person. She has poise, bearing. Do you think she'll relish the idea of going?
Believe me, Mr. Conklin, when you tell her about it, she'll be so happy she'll clap her paws in glee. Now, if you'll excuse me, sir, I'll get to my classroom.
Very well, Miss Brooks. Miss...
Thanks a lot.
Well, good morning, Miss Brooks.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Boynton. Wait till you hear the news. I was just in Mr. Conklin's office. Mr. Boynton, what are you doing up? Go right home and get back into bed at once.
Bed? What for? I'm not sick.
You're not?
No, I never felt better in my life.
What a revolting development this is. Walter told me that Harriet said you were sick in bed.
Harriet? Well, I didn't talk to Harriet. When I phoned the school this morning, I thought I was going to be delayed at the biology supply house. So I left that message with one of the teachers.
What teacher?
Miss Enright.
I should have said which teacher. And she's a witch teacher if I ever saw her.
Do you suppose she could have confused the words delayed with laid up?
Oh, there's no confusion at all. This is the result of careful calculations. Miss Enright knew that Harriet would tell Walter, also that Walter would, if he saw me, and that's customary, he'd almost be sure to, tell me, and then knowing what she would do, or thinking she know what I would do, she told Harriet what I later heard from Walter, and then I did what she thought I'd do.
Miss Brooks, are you all right? Why are you speaking in such jerky sentences?
There's a very good reason, Mr. Boynton. I have just been completely taken in by a very jerky teacher.
Friends, if you suffer from acid indigestion, I hope you didn't miss reading this wonderful news. A headline that says, New mints, medically proven, quickly rid stomach of gastric distress. That headline is talking about new Bicidol mints. Doctors recommend Bicidol mints because the Bicidol medication acts at once to make painful acid harmless and give you fast 5-way relief. 1. Speeds relief from gas. 2. Sweetens your breath. 3. Gives complete, longer-lasting relief than baking soda. 4. Relieves stomach upset from too much eating, drinking, smoking. 5. Lets you sleep when acid indigestion strikes at night. So don't suffer acid indigestion, heartburn, or gastric distress from excess acidity. Remember, new mints, medically proven, quickly rid stomach of gastric distress. And remember the name, Bicidol mints. Bisodol. Get Bicidol mints for fast relief.
Well, when we sat down to lunch in the school cafeteria, I told Mr. Boynton that I suspected Miss Enright of deliberately saying he was ill so that I would withdraw and she could go in my place. At first, he refused to believe it of her, but finally his sense of justice was so completely outraged that he seemed beside himself with fury, and he violently shouted,
Maybe it was all a misunderstanding. Why should Miss Enright think you'd stay home from the convention even if I was sick in bed?
Because I would, that's why. Somebody would have to take care of you, get your medicine, and fix your meals, and see that you were made comfortable.
Miss Brooks, may I remind you that I'm not sick in bed?
Oh, I know that, Mr. Boynton.
Then would you mind not taking my pulse? I need this hand to finish my wax beans.
I still say that when people haven't any relatives in a place, it's up to the people who think something of people to do something for the people they think something of. Maybe I should teach Spanish.
I know you're disappointed about not attending the convention, Miss Brooks, but if you have any suggestions you'd like me to put before the meeting...
There's only one suggestion I'm worried about, and that'll come from Miss Enright to you.
Say, that's funny.
What?
You're mentioning Miss Enright. She's heading for this table now. Well, speak of the devil.
It's just the way she's wearing her hair. Uh-oh. She spotted us.
Oh, hello, Miss Brooks. Mr. Boynton, why aren't you home in bed?
His sheets caught on fire.
You know yourself, Miss Enright, that I only phoned to say that I might be delayed getting to school.
Delayed? Oh, I thought you said laid up.
You did? Now, you see, Miss Brooks, it was a misunderstanding.
Oh, of course. Like the one Custer had with those red chaps.
Oh, now don't be a bad loser, darling. Not that you are, really. I understand that you personally recommended me to Mr. Conklin for the position of second delegate for Madison High.
Oh, you did that, Miss Brooks?
I wish my mother had quit after my 2 older brothers were born.
Do you mind if I join you at this table? The cafeteria is quite crowded now.
Not as crowded as this table right now.
Sit down, Miss Enright. Oh, I see you have your own sandwich. Now, can I get you some water or a napkin or something?
Oh, go ahead, Diamond Jim. Bring her a toothpick, too.
I'd love some water, please, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, very well. I'll get some for all of us. Oh, I'm a great boy for water.
He's a great boy for a lot of things. Well, you'll be happy to know, darling, that Mr. Conklin told me of my selection as second delegate early in the day. That's why I was able to get home during a free period, pack a valise, and put on my new fall traveling suit. Do you like it?
It all depends how far you travel. Look, Miss Enright, we both know that your going to the convention is my fault, but we also know that my not going is your fault. Do I make myself clear?
To me, yes. But I can't help wondering how much of you gets across to your pupils. Well, that's the wrong attitude, though, isn't it? Let's not spoil Mr. Boynton's luncheon with a lot of female bickering.
You're right, Miss Enright. I might as well be a good sport about it. All's fair in you-know-what in war, I guess.
Well, here we are, ladies. Here's some good old H2O.
Greatest thing since water. Sit down, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, I brought some coffee for us, too.
Oh, that was very considerate, Mr. Boynton. Tell me, do you think this suit I'm wearing is all right for our train trip today?
Oh, yes, Miss Enright. It looks fine. It's a very provocative shade of green. Don't you think so, Miss Brooks?
In my present mood, it's puzzling. I can't tell where her suit leaves off and my face begins. Actually, Miss Enright, it is an interesting shade of green. Who knows? You may blend in with your Pullman chair so well, Mr. Boynton won't be able to find you.
Is that what you call being a good sport, Miss Brooks?
Sorry. Let's be gay, shall we? Drink up, Mr. Boynton. We'll knock that water cooler silly.
I've had plenty, thanks. I'm working on this beef stew right now. If you ladies will excuse me, I'm not much for conversation while I'm eating.
Of course, Mr. Boynton. Bon voyage. Tell me, Miss Enright, what other clothes are you taking on the trip?
Oh, just my 2 good dresses. As a matter of fact, they're the only 2 I'd wear out of the house.
But I thought you had quite an extensive wardrobe.
Oh, yes, I did. But I gave loads of last year's stuff to charity. I feel the poor have to live, too.
What a liberal viewpoint. I'm sorry, Miss Enright. I'd really like to let bygones be bygones. I'm going to get myself a little dessert now. May I bring you something?
Well, I could do with a piece of pie.
Oh, I'd be happy to do you with a piece of pie. I'll pick out something real nice.
Where are you going, Miss Brooks? Can I get something for you?
You keep bucking that beef. You're only yards away from a first down. I'll be back in a jiffy.
Oh, don't make it anything too rich, darling.
Leave it to me, darling. I'll fix you up fine.
Hi, Miss Brooks. I was happy to see that Mr. Boynton wasn't sick enough to miss school today.
He's not sick at all, Harriet. It was just a plot to get me to volunteer to stay home so Miss Enright could go to the convention in my place. I suggested her to Mr. Conklin myself.
And he took your suggestion?
Hook, line, and sinker. A sinker. But I've got an idea that may still turn the tables. I'm going to get Miss Enright a nice piece of pie.
A piece of pie? Because she played a dirty trick on you?
Exactly. Let's see now. What goes poorest with a green dress?
With a green... Oh, I get it. Miss Brooks, you're going to present Miss Enright with the pie, but in several places.
Why, Harriet Conklin, what an outrageous thought. I'll just take this coconut cream pie, I believe.
How about taking this piece, too?
Both of them?
Sure. Then you can lose your balance easier. And as you let her have it, you can sing White Christmas.
You have an extremely poetic mind. Oh, Harriet, there's no one at this counter to punch my food check. Will you please get it done for me? I'll pick it up on my way out.
Oh, sure, Miss Brooks. You go right ahead.
Thanks, dear.
Don't mention it. Happy landing on.
I hope I wasn't too long. I brought some pie back for both of you.
Oh, that was very thoughtful, Miss Brooks. Oh, looks delicious.
Oh, yes, it does. I'll pass Mr. Boynton's piece over to him, Miss Brooks.
Oh, I think I can manage.
Oh, come on. Let me have it.
Well, if you insist. Oh, I must have tripped.
How could you be so clumsy?
Oh, my goodness, the pie's all over your new suit.
Oh, dear. Well, not quite all over it, Mr. Boynton. Most of it splattered on the coat. The skirt's not touched, thank goodness.
That's what I get for not keeping my head down.
I'll just dip a napkin in this water. Maybe we can get some of that goo off your coat.
Oh, good.
Oh, here, let me try.
Now watch out for the coffee cup. Oh! Oh, no! All over my skirt.
That's what I call teamwork.
I'm terribly sorry, Miss Enright.
My new suit is completely ruined. First pie on the coat and then coffee on the skirt.
It's like I always say, what good's a piece of pie without a cup of coffee?
Your alleged humor leaves me cold at this point, Miss Brooks. It's a good thing I had the foresight to pack my other dresses and leave them in my gym locker.
No, it is indeed, Miss Enright. You'd hardly have time to get new clothes this afternoon. The train leaves at 5:45.
Well, accidents will happen. I apologize again, Miss Enright. And now, if you'll both excuse me, I've got to practice a bit.
Practice?
Yes, my work on the parallel bars has been very vertical.
Our Miss Brooks will return in a moment. Yes, you can help keep America beautiful. You can, with scarcely any effort at all, join the growing ranks of Americans who are making clean streets and highways their own business. Apart from the aesthetic value of beautiful streets and highways, unlittered and minus the all-too-familiar collection of tin cans, broken bottles, and similar debris, there's another consideration. Litter not only is unsightly, it's dangerous. A sharp, ragged edge of a can can cause a blowout. So can a broken piece of glass. Blowouts can cause death, and often have. If you have been among the thoughtless many who litter our roads, parksides, picnic sites, and open highways, give this matter serious thought now, and help America mend its ways. Keep in mind that many states have already instituted heavy fines for littering, some in 3 figures, and more states are getting tough on litterers every month. It's going to be as expensive to get caught littering as speeding. In many states, it's more costly. Good citizenship demands it. Common sense demands it. Safety demands it. Help make ours a litter-free country. Help in every way you can.
Well, at lunch, I had done my best to prevent Miss Enright from attending the teachers' convention with Mr. Boynton. However, to my disappointment, I discovered one ruined dress doesn't mean a missed convention. At least not when die-hard Daisy happened to have the rest of her clothes packed and waiting in her gym locker. Later that afternoon, I received an urgent request to report to our principal's office. You sent for me, Mr. Conklin?
Yes, Miss Brooks, I did. I have just spoken with Miss Enright. She, it appears, was foolhardy enough to have lunch with you.
We did share the same table, but...
Fortunately, she escaped without any serious bodily injury. However, she has been forced to withdraw as Madison's second delegate to the Teachers' Convention in Evanston.
You mean she's not able to go?
Miss Brooks, when Miss Enright informed me that you had peppered her garments with a slab of coconut cream pie, it didn't surprise me in the least. But there's one thing that does puzzle me.
What's that, Mr. Conklin?
Well, if it isn't revealing too much of a trade secret, Miss Brooks, would you kindly tell me how you managed to plop a second piece of cream pie on the dresses packed inside her valise, which was inside her locker?
I guess when I get clumsy, I just go hog wild.
Well, until they infringe upon school operations, personal rivalries on the faculty are not my concern. However, there are 2 train tickets available for this trip.
I know it. Yes, sir. 2 tickets.
And there are 2 delegates expected to the convention.
That's right. 2 delegates expected. 2 of them.
As you know, Mr. Boynton is one of the delegates. All we need now is another one.
You're right, Mr. Conklin. You're so right. You're the rightest thing since the Wright brothers. Just 1 more delegate's all we need.
Yeah, Miss Brooks.
Yes, Mr. Conklin?
Get off my desk. You're not going. I have just made my selection for delegate number 2.
Who?
Me.
You?
None other. Not only will the trip do me a world of good, it will reflect prestige and credit upon Madison High as well. However, I don't want you to feel completely out of things, Miss Brooks.
So?
So I want you to type up these notes for me. They contain some remarks I will make to the convention. Now, toddle along, Miss Brooks.
Yes, sir. Oh, Mr. Conklin?
Yes?
I realize it's quite late, but how would you like to be my guest for a little lunch?
Not today, thank you. But don't be discouraged. It was a nice try. Good day, Lucrezia.
Goodbye, sir. Don't be discouraged, he says. Of all things to happen to a person.
Well, Miss Brooks, you must be upset today. You're talking to yourself.
I know. I'm a very good listener. Oh, it's you, Mr. Boynton.
Yes. I'm going in to talk to Mr. Conklin for a moment.
Mr. Conklin? Are you in trouble?
Oh, not at all. I'd rather not mention why I'm seeing him until after the interview. But if you'll wait right here, Miss Brooks, I think I'll have a pleasant surprise for you when I come out of his office.
Surprise?
Yes. Now wait right by that fire hose on the wall. I'll just be a few minutes.
Don't worry, Mr. Boynton. Unless the hose catches on fire, I'll be here.
Oh, I'm glad you waited for me, Miss Brooks.
This hose is doubled over exactly 62.5 times. Now, what's the surprise?
Well, I knew how anxious you were to make this trip to Evanston, so when Miss Enright withdrew, I determined to prevail upon Mr. Conklin to let you go as originally planned.
But there are only 2 tickets available, and Mr. Conklin's using one of them himself.
I know that, Miss Brooks, but you're going anyhow.
I am?
Yes, I turned my ticket back to Mr. Conklin.
What?
Of course, he was a little timorous at first, but when I pointed out how helpful you could be to him, taking notes and typing and whatnot, he agreed to have you accompany him to the convention.
But what about you, Mr. Boynton?
Oh, don't worry about me. I'll be busy as a bee over the weekend. I'll probably go on a shopping tour with Miss Enright.
You really must excuse me, Mr. Boynton. This is the only traveling dress I own, and I've got to fix it up right away.
Fix it up? What's wrong with it?
That's obvious. It hasn't any coconut cream pie on it.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, transcribed, was produced and directed by Larry Burns, written by Al Lewis, with the music of Wilbur Hatch. Mr. Conklin was played by Gail Gordon. Others in tonight's cast were Jane Morgan, Dick Crenna, Bob Rockwell, Gloria McMillan, and Mary Jane Croft. Be sure to be with us next week for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks.
Brooks, starring Eve Arden. Well, over the years, our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High, has had more than her share of difficulties with her principal, Mr. Conklin. Recently, however, their relations have improved.
Yes, my uncle and aunt feel a lot better. Actually, things have been a bit smoother between Mr. Conklin and me. In fact, when I suggested the plan I had heard about to supplement our teaching with movies, Mr. Conklin gave me the money to try it out. So until last week, when the great experiment was to take place in one of my classes, everything was going splendidly. And in more ways than one. Because Thursday morning, Mr. Boynton was over at my house for breakfast. My landlady was attending an early club meeting, so there were just the two of us. I could sense that Mr. Boynton felt the warm, romantic implications of this domestic scene, because his voice seemed choked with emotion when he said,
I wonder how long Joe Palooka will be champ.
I haven't the slightest idea. Why don't you ask little Abner?
Little Abner?
He's been staring at me from the other side of that newspaper for the past 10 minutes.
Oh, pardon me, Miss Brooks. Reading the paper was rather rude, I guess. It's just that I feel so at home here, I didn't think you'd mind.
Oh, I really don't, Mr. Boynton. That's just the way I want you to feel.
Good. Oh, I haven't had this sort of breakfast since I was home with Mother.
Well, have you ever thought that you might enjoy a breakfast like this every day, Mr. Boynton?
Of course I have, Miss Brooks, many times. But Dad needs her too much for Mom to come down here.
That isn't quite what I had in mind.
How's your latest project at school working out, Miss Brooks?
I don't know yet, Mr. Boynton. The first film, The Lady of the Lake, was shown to my English class yesterday.
You don't know how it worked out?
No, I had to do something for Mr. Conklin during that hour, so I let the kids run the picture themselves. We'll know how it was received when Walter Denton picks us up in a few minutes.
Well, films can be a big help to all teachers. Well, other schools have been showing movies in their classrooms for years. I wonder why Mr. Conklin would never allow it at Madison before.
He hates popcorn. Mrs. Davis is very fond of the idea, though. In fact, she's showing a film at her club's breakfast this morning. She rented it from the same place I did.
What picture did she rent?
A little number called Shearing Sheep at Big Billabong, Australia.
Oh? What's it about?
It's about shearing sheep at Big Billabong, Australia. It's perfect for the ladies in Mrs. Davis's club.
Shearing sheep in Australia. Why should that be perfect for the ladies in Mrs. Davis' club?
There are some pretty woolly ladies in Mrs. Davis's club. Oh, that must be Walter. Come on in. The door's open.
I'm anxious to hear how your audio-visual experiment was received by the English class.
If past performances mean anything, I know exactly what happened 5 minutes after I left the room.
What?
They left the room.
Well, what a pleasant surprise. Greetings to my two favorite faculty members, the fairest of the fair and the brawniest of the brawny.
Oh, it's just the padding in these shoulders that makes me look... Oh, you mean him.
Hey, where's the effervescent Mrs. Davis this morning?
She's fizzing at a ladies' club breakfast.
Oh, that must be the same one Mom and Mrs. Conklin are attending.
Walter, we're both anxious to hear how that audio-visual experiment worked out yesterday.
Yes, how was the Lady of the Lake received, Walter?
Oh, great, Miss Brooks. Yeah, unfortunately, the sound part of the projector didn't work, but the class made up for that. Oh, you never heard such whistling in your life.
Whistling? At the Lady of the Lake? What did she do, come out?
Not exactly, Miss Brooks. You see, the title on the can the picture came in said The Lady of the Lake, all right, but the picture turned out to be something called Sirens of the Screen, Past and Present.
What?
Yeah, and we put it on at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and every fella in the class was late for dinner last night.
But it's only a 15-minute short.
I know, but we ran it 23 times.
You don't mean that.
Yeah, and we stopped the projector for 10 minutes every time we got to Marilyn Monroe. Woo, hell afternoon. What have you got planned for next week, Miss Brooks?
A little epic called The Teacher Dies at Dawn. Has Conklin heard about this yet, Walter?
Oh, I don't know, Miss Brooks.
I hope he hasn't. I know what this project means to you, Miss Brooks.
Well, cheer up, Mr. Boynton. Even if he has heard about it, we can still get a picture of the Lady of the Lake.
What do you mean?
I may drown myself.
if you'll be seated, Miss Brooks, I'll come directly to the point.
Yes, sir.
As an experiment in audio-visual education, I gave you not only permission, but also $15 to rent a projector and film of the poem, The Lady of the Lake.
Something go wrong, Mr. Conklin?
Miss Brooks, when I did so, I had no idea that the Lady of the Lake would turn out to be Marilyn Monroe.
Either. Esther Williams would have been much more appropriate. I can explain this, Mr.
Explain? Explain this, then. When you wanted this film, you told me it was Sir Walter Scott's poem, presented against a background of Scottish sea.
But, sir...
The only Scotch in that entire picture was in a glass in Peter Barrer's hand.
Then you've run the picture, Mr. Conklin.
5 times, Miss Brooks. I ran it through a few times to convince myself that what I was seeing was true. Sirens of the screen, indeed. I've already heard from Mr. Stone this morning, and he was furious. It seems that 5 parents have already complained to him about it. He blames the whole thing on me.
But why you, sir? It was my idea.
I know, but I took credit for it.
Mr. Conklin, this is a mistake on the part of the company. Institutional Pictures. It probably won't happen again in another 10 years. We're all entitled to one mistake, aren't we?
Sometimes when I think of you, Miss Brooks, that is the only thing that keeps me going. But I told Mr. Stone it was all a mistake, and I also told him we had another film in case he wanted to reassure himself on the subject matter of the pictures we're showing.
But, sir, we haven't another picture. And including the projector, they cost $15 to rent.
That is your problem, Miss Brooks. You got us into this thing, and you are going to get us out of it. In any event, Mr. Stone said he wouldn't bother to come over unless there are further complaints. However, if there are, he said heads would roll. Osgood Conklin, principal speaking. Who? Yes, she's right here now. It's for you, Miss Brooks.
For me, sir? Hello?
Hello, Connie. This is Mrs. Davis.
Oh, hello, Mrs. Davis.
I just called to tell you how the picture I showed at the Ladies' Club breakfast turned out. I gave full credit for the idea to you, of course, and I told the ladies that this was the identical sort of picture being shown at Madison High.
I see. Well, how did Shearing Sheep at Big Billabong turn out?
Oh, those scenes in the nightclub were terrific, dear.
In the nightclub?
Yes, and the ones in the showgirls' dressing room were even more sensational.
What? Well, where were the sheep?
You know, that's what we were wondering, too. I ran the picture through 3 times trying to find them. But it was all about a chorus girl. However, none of the ladies seemed to mind. That is, none except Mrs. Stone.
Mrs. Stone was there? What did she say, Mrs. Davis?
Oh, she didn't say a thing, dear. She just fainted. I hope I haven't disturbed you, dear.
Oh, not at all, Mrs. Davis. My tongue always sticks to the roof of my mouth in the morning. I'll speak to you later. Goodbye.
Goodbye, dear.
What was that all about, Miss Brooks?
Mr. Conklin, did Mr. Stone really say heads would roll if there was another complaint?
That's exactly what he said, Miss Brooks. What about it?
Nothing, sir. Only I wonder how we'll both look when we're 10 inches shorter. I told Mr. Boynton about my predicament in the school cafeteria at lunchtime.
Let's see if I've got it straight, Miss Brooks. You must have another film here to show Mr. Stone when he arrives this afternoon, or the entire project goes right out the window.
Followed swiftly by me. And the cost of renting a new film and projector is $15, which I've got to get somewhere.
Isn't Mr. Conklin giving you anything?
Yes, 2 hours in which to dig it up.
Well, you can count on me for part of the $15.
Oh, really, Mr. Boynton? What part?
$2.35. Here's the 35 cents now.
Well, thanks, Mr. Boynton, but where's the $2?
Just a second till I take off my shoe.
You mean you've got $2 in your shoe?
Oh, no, I've only got $1 in my shoe.
Where's the other $1?
In my hat band.
You'd make a nervous wreck out of a hold-up man. I do appreciate
Hello,
your...
Miss Brooks. Hello, Mr. Boynton.
Oh, hello, Harriet.
I hope I'm not interrupting anything, but Mr. Boynton, what are you doing with your shoe off?
He's just airing out his money. What is it, Harriet?
Well, first, Daddy asked me to tell you to be sure to be in his office with the new film by 3:30, because that's when Mr. Stone's due to arrive. And secondly, knowing the position you're in, I went around to all the girls and took up a collection for you.
I'm beginning to feel like a charity case.
Remember the old proverb, Miss Brooks. Pride goeth before a fall.
That I knoweth. And at this point, I'm not going to turn down anything.
I knew you needed $15, so I canvassed about 30 girls, Miss Brooks. I told them to cough up as much as they could.
How much did you collect?
80 cents.
That's not much of a cost.
I've also got $1 of my own I want to lend you.
Oh, no, really, Harriet. I wouldn't dream of taking
but Miss Brooks...
Well, all right, dear, if you insist. Where is the $1?
I'll give it to you as soon as I go down to my locker after lunch.
The $1's in your locker?
Well, not exactly, Miss Brooks, but that's the only place I can remove the stocking I'm wearing over it.
If the wallet industry depended on this school, it'd go broke. Well, thanks a lot, Harriet.
Well, here's the money, Miss Brooks. I did the very best I could.
I knew all the precincts hadn't been heard from.
Oh, did you take up a collection too, Walter?
Oh, yes, sir. I went around to all the fellas in your English lit class, Miss Brooks, and I told them you needed 15 Iron Men for a new film. And since they'd all seen Sirens of the Screen, this was one little way of expressing their gratitude.
Oh, and how much did you collect?
65 cents.
Done a bigger business with Lady of the Lake.
Oh, but that's not all. I want to lend you $1 of my own, which I've kept for just such an emergency.
Thanks, Walter. Where is it?
Well, you know that good luck charm I wear around my neck with my mother's picture in it?
Yes.
Oh, that's not my mother. It's George Washington.
They always said there was more to you people than meets the eye. Now, let's see. Mr. Boynton has $2.35 for me, Harriet $1.80, and Walter $1.65. That comes to approximately $6. Then I've got another couple of dollars of my own.
Well, I didn't think you had any money, Miss Brooks. Where did you get $2?
Remember when I went to the dentist last week?
Yes.
Well, I stashed $2 away in a temporary filling.
Oh, I'm dreadfully sorry, Miss Brooks, but institutional pictures can't accept $8 on a projector and film which rents for $15.
But, Mr. Gibson, it was your mistake in the first place. You sent us Sirens of the Screen, past and present, when I'd ordered The Lady of the Lake from your salesman. I think his name was Blake.
Oh, yes. We've had nothing but trouble with that man. Our manager wouldn't raise his salary, so out of sheer spite, he switched any number of films on us before he quit. I'd like to help you, but we have a strict 24-hour ruling, and you've had your film for several days. You'll just have to tell your organization. What is it, by the way? A ladies' club? Social service group? Union?
I teach at Madison High School.
What? Why, our biggest rental is to schools. You showed Sirens of the Screen to a high school class?
With a 10-minute stopover at Marilyn Monroe.
You look like a very fair-minded person. I'll tell you what I'll do. You keep the $8 now that you have the new film and projector for nothing.
Well...
I'll make it 4 films for nothing.
Well...
Forget about the rentals entirely. I'll give you a year's supply of films free if you'll get your school to forget this incident.
Well...
And I'll throw in $10 for yourself.
Well,
Miss Brooks, aren't you going to answer me?
I'm doing good enough with well. Just give me a good film to show the head of our school board when he comes to Madison this afternoon, and we'll call it square.
Oh, you're the salt of the earth. I have just the thing for the occasion. The Board of Education at work. Don't you think it's perfect?
I suppose so, if you like fantasy. Well, when Mr. Gibson agreed to rectify his mistake and give me a new film to show Mr. Stone, it seemed that my troubles were just about over. At 3 that afternoon, we were getting everything ready in Mr. Conklin's office.
Well, the projector's all set up, Miss Brooks. All we have to do when Mr. Conklin and Mr. Stone get here is turn the switch and run the film.
Yeah, this office ought to be a perfect projection room. You see, the way I've fixed the shades, no light can get in through the windows at all.
Oh, you've done a beautiful job, Walter.
There's only one thing that bothers me. The sound on this projector doesn't work.
With Mr. Conklin in the room, nobody will notice the difference.
We've still got a few minutes before Daddy gets here. Why don't we run the film through once for the 4 of us?
Good idea, Harriet. Let's sit down.
Yeah, but there are only 2 chairs in this room. Where are the 4 of us going to sit?
We can worry about that when the lights are out.
What are you talking about?
What Walter means is that he and Harriet can share the big, comfortable chair that Mr. Conklin keeps for visitors.
Yeah, but what about the 2 of us?
We can divide this narrow one. And don't look so panicky. We can either show the film or just turn out the lights and wait until Mr. Conklin and Mr. Stone get here.
Just turn out the lights? What good will that do?
Does that answer your question?
Maybe we'd better run the film.
I was afraid you'd see it that way. All right, Walter, turn off the desk light and let's get started.
Yes, ma'am. There we are.
Gosh, I can't see a thing. Where are you, Miss Brooks? Are you seated yet?
After you, Mr. Boynton. That is, I'll sit on the edge of the chair nearest the projector switch. Now, are we all set, Walter? Walter? They're all set. Well, here goes. Oh, what a magnificent view of the Rock of Gibraltar. I feel as if I could reach out and touch it.
You're staring at my chin, Miss Brooks. You're, leaning rather close to me.
How nice of you to notice. Well, we've missed the title, but we know it's about the Board of Education at work.
Oh, look at that sign by the side of the road.
It says you are now entering Las Vegas, Nevada.
Oh, it's probably all about the Las Vegas Board of Education.
I hope you're right.
Of course I am. There they are now, all working around a table.
They certainly are. A dice table. Mr. Boynton, this is a picture about gambling. There's been another terrible mistake.
Turn off the projector at once, Miss Brooks.
Well, I'm trying to. This switch is stuck. Pull the plug out of the wall.
I don't know where the wall plug is with the lights off.
Walter, turn on the desk lamp so Mr. Boynton can find the plug. Walter. Walter, do you hear me? You're a big help. You find it in the dark, Mr. Boynton?
Well, I'll try.
Oh, good. You found it.
What on earth is going on in here?
Mr. Conklin. Oh, just a moment, sir. I'll turn on the light.
No, never mind the lights, Miss Brooks. Since you've apparently started your new film, The Board of Education at Work, I'd like to have a look at it before Mr. Stone gets here.
Here. Sit in my chair, sir.
Oh, where will you sit?
I'll stand in front of the screen. It isn't a very good picture, Mr. Conklin.
Stop babbling, please. I'll just settle myself in this comfortable chair on the other side of the projector. Here we are. Logan! Something speared me.
You just got on my knees, Daddy, and you're a little heavy.
Harriet, what are you talking about?
I doubt if I can hold the both of you.
Jen, where are you?
He's between the devil and the deep blue sea.
Well, turn on those wall lights, Boynton.
Yes, sir.
Aha. Harriet, I want you and Denton to leave this room at once. Through my inner office, please. And I'll speak to you both later.
Very well, Daddy.
Mr. Conklin, appearances are very often deceiving. And I want you to know that Harriet was in no way responsible for what happened. I'll take the full blame, sir. It was all my fault. And I insist that you let me accept the entire responsibility for this whole...
Oh, blow! be here any minute now, and we can get rolling again.
At least our heads can. Miss Conklin, I suppose that...
Oh, please, come in. Well, good afternoon, Mr. Stone.
Good afternoon, Osgood. Hello, Mr. Boynton, Miss Brooks.
Hello, Mr. Stone. Want to go for a nice walk?
A walk? I came over here to see a movie.
That's what I mean. Let's walk over and see a movie. The Bijou has a fine Marlon Brando picture.
Miss Brooks, what are you jabbering about? Now, turn off the lights, Boynton, and I'll put the plug back in the wall here.
If you say so, Mr. Conklin.
Ah, there you are, Mr. Stone. What a scene. The members of the Board of Education gathered round a table rolling dice. Now, it's certainly a far cry from the reports you heard about the picture yesterday with the shocking exhibition of movie queens and...
Miss Brooks?
Why are the members of the board rolling dice?
The blackjack dealers are on strike.
Pull that plug. I'm turning these lights on. So all my suspicions were true, Osgood. Your moral laxity is undermining this entire institution.
Oh, pardon this interruption, Miss Brooks, but there's been another mistake.
Now he tells me.
Who is this man?
It's Mr. Gibson, the man who rented us the film.
Well, I'll do anything to rectify my mistake, Miss Brooks. Why, I'll even... Oh, hello, Mr. Stone.
Oh, you know Mr. Stone?
He's evidently mistaking me for somebody else.
Oh, no, sir. Well, don't you remember when that friend of yours got married last month? You rented 2 films from me for a smoker you gave him?
Match anyone?
What? Well, I remember it distinctly because one of the pictures caused all the hubbub today. Sirens of the screen, past and present.
Oh, is that so? Well, for your information, when I flashed it on the screen that night, it turned out to be the Lady of the Lake.
So, Mr. Stone, you are going to call my moral laxity to the attention of the Board of Education.
Oh, you don't really think I meant that, do you, Osgood? Not on your tintype, my boy. If anything, it's Mr. Gibson who should be brought before the board.
Oh, that would be a waste of time, Mr. Stone.
A waste of time?
The way Mr. Gibson operates, by the time he got there, he'd turn out to be Zsa Zsa Gabor.
Brooks, starring Eve Arden, transcribed, was produced and directed by Larry Burns, written by Arthur Alsberg and Al Lewis, with the music of Lud Gluskin. Mr. Conklin was played by Gail Gordon. Others in tonight's cast were Jane Morgan, Dick Crenna, Bob Rockwell, Gloria McMillan, Joseph Kearns, and Joel Samuel.
Same time and over this same station, Eve Arden, in the role of Madison High School's favorite English teacher, Miss Brooks, will again call the student body together. Don't you be absent. Our Miss Brooks is presented each week through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.
This is the American Forces Network, Europe.
Now, Anacin, the tablets thousands of physicians and dentists recommend for fast relief of pain of headache, neuritis, neuralgia, and Bicidol mints that quickly rid stomach of gastric distress, present Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. It's time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks Transcribed. But first, Here is something you should know if you ever suffer from the pain of headache, neuritis, or neuralgia. It's an incredibly fast way to ease the pain. It's Anacin, a way countless numbers of people have found superior. Anacin acts so promptly to relieve pain. Anacin is like a doctor's prescription. That is, Anacin contains not just one, but a combination of medically proven active ingredients in convenient tablet form. Thousands of persons have been introduced to Anacin through their own physicians or dentists. But today these tablets are in such widespread use that all drug counters have them, and everyone can have the benefit of their incredibly fast action. So if you want to relieve the pains of headache, neuritis, or neuralgia, by all means try Anacin on this guarantee. If the first few Anacin tablets do not give you all the relief you want, as fast as you want it, return the unused portion and your money will be refunded. I'll spell the name for you, Anacin. Easy-to-take Anacin tablets come in handy boxes of 12 and 30 and economical family-size bottles of 50 and 100. Ask for Anacin at your druggist's today. Well, many school teachers embarked upon their summer vacations as soon as school ended last June. But our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, could only afford 1 week away from the city and waited until September to make her departure.
Yes, I wanted my vacation to remain fresh in my memory. I felt that in the long winter months ahead, I could use some glowing memories to warm my bones. Last Friday morning, the date I had set to leave town, my landlady sat down to breakfast with me.
So you're finally going on your vacation, Connie?
Yes, Mrs. Davis, I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
I know you have, dear. Ever since Mr. Boynton left town 2 weeks ago. You must miss him dreadfully.
Me? Miss Mr. Boynton dreadfully? Why?
We all know how you feel about Madison's handsome biology teacher, Connie. And it's just a shame that he's so bashful when it comes to women.
Oh, I don't mind his being bashful when it comes to women. It's just this one particular English teacher who I mind his being bashful with when it comes to her, usually. Anyway, let's change the subject.
All right, Connie. We'll talk about something else.
Fine.
Mr. Boynton's spending his vacation at Crystal Lake.
So what? Mr. Boynton's spending his vacation at Crystal Lake. As far as I'm concerned, he can go his way and I'll go my way.
Where are you going on your vacation, Connie?
Crystal Lake. It just happens that my picking out Crystal Lake for a vacation was merely a coincidence. As a matter of fact, I simply took a map of some surrounding resort towns and stuck a pin in it.
And the pin landed on Crystal Lake?
Who knows? I was afraid to look. But Walter Denton's coming over to help me with my bags this morning, and I'd appreciate it if you don't mention Mr. Boynton in front of him.
Well, why not, Connie? Walter knows you're fond of Mr. Boynton.
Well, I'm fond of Walter, too, Mrs. Davis, but that kid can be an awful tease at times, usually when it's most embarrassing. So do me a favor. When he gets here, I'm just going to Crystal Lake to relax, huh?
Okay. Now eat your cereal, dear. I'll go see if...
Oh, that's Walter now. The door's open, Walter. Come on in the dinette.
Farewell, oh fairest flower of the faculty. Adieu, Miss Brooks. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye. Aloha.
Don't push me. I'm going.
Miss Brooks is going to Crystal Lake to relax, Walter. That's the only reason in the world she's going there. Just to relax.
That's right, Walter.
And guess who'll be there to relax with her?
Mrs. Davis, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, Connie. Well, I'll go get the coffee started. I'll be back in a few minutes.
Take your time. Oh, it'll be nice to get away for a while. I've been typing reports for Mr. Conklin till my nails are worn down.
Yeah, you've earned a good rest, Miss Brooks. And Crystal Lake is a great place to get it.
It certainly is.
It's also a great place to nail down Mr. Boynton. He's still vacationing up there, you know.
He is? Well, you might not believe this, Walter, but the fact that Mr. Boynton happens to be at Crystal Lake in the Beaver Lodge in room 124 is certainly news to me.
Now, tell the truth, Miss Brooks. Since he's been away, has Mr. Boynton called you much?
He hasn't called me anything I couldn't repeat in mixed company. Oh, you mean has he telephoned? Well, to be perfectly honest, Walter, Mr. Boynton did phone me about a week ago, but I didn't enjoy the conversation as much as I should have.
Why not?
Well, Mr. Boynton told me that the desk clerk at Beaver Lodge, Mr. Turner, was quite a snooper, and he used to listen in on the guest telephone calls.
Oh, gosh, that's pretty hard to believe in a nice hotel like that.
I didn't believe it myself until Mr. Turner cut in on us to deny the whole thing.
Well, Turner or no Turner, you ought to phone Mr. Boynton and tell him you're coming up today.
Not me, Walter. I want to surprise him.
Yeah, but you haven't spoken to him in a week. He might have checked out.
Checked out?
Sure. But even if he hasn't, you don't have to give the surprise away. Just tell him you called to pass the time of day. Don't even mention that you're driving up.
Well,
Yo, that's my pal, Stretch Snodgrass, Miss Brooks. He said he was going to come over and say goodbye to you.
Oh, I'm quite flattered. Stretch is Madison's most brilliant athlete. Physically, that is. Come in, Stretch.
Yeah, I'll go help Mrs. Davis in the kitchen. Stretch is pretty bashful sometimes. He'll probably feel more comfortable if he talks to you alone.
All right, Walter. See what's holding up my coffee, will you?
Oh, hi, Miss Brooks. Walter told me you was going away, so I just come by to say oof Weezer's end.
Oof Hoozer's end?
Weezer's end. Well, that's a word Walter taught me. He told me it means goodbye. Gosh, if oof Weezer's end doesn't mean goodbye, then my coming over to wish you oof Weezer's end must make me out to be some kind of a dummy.
But a very nice kind, Stretch. Actually, the word you have in mind is pronounced Auf Wiedersehen.
Oh. Well, I never was much good at them French words.
I know. English is where you shine.
That's because you're my teacher, Miss Brooks.
Don't spread it around.
Well, I'm sure glad you're getting to go on a vacation.
Me too, Stretch. I can use the rest. I'm going up to Crystal Lake for the week. It's a great place to relax.
Boy, it sure is. When it comes to relaxing, Mr. Boynton's one of the nicest guys to relax with.
Here's your beanie, Stretch. Oof Weezer's end.
Before I go, Miss Brooks, I'd like to make a suggestion. If you're going to go up to the lodge, you ought to call Mr. Boynton first.
But, Stretch, I don't want him to...
It won't spoil the surprise. Just don't mention you're driving up. Just say you called to pass the time of day.
This sounds like a conspiracy.
Hiya, Stretch. Finished saying goodbye to Miss Brooks yet?
Just about, Walter.
Yeah, good. Now, if you'll give us the keys to your car, Miss Brooks, Stretch and I'll see that it's all gassed up and ready to go.
Fine, here they are, but make it fast, boys. I'd like to get started right after breakfast.
Well, don't worry, Miss Brooks. We'll be back in a jiffy. Come on, Walter.
You okay, Stretch? Well, hasta la vista, Miss Brooks.
Gracias, Walter. Adios, Stretch.
Hasta Visalia, Miss Brooks.
Here's the coffee, Connie. Nice and hot.
Good. You know something, Mrs. Davis? As soon as I finish my coffee, I'm going to call Mr. Boynton on the phone, just to make sure he hasn't checked out of Beaver Lodge.
But, Connie, you don't want him to...
Oh, it won't spoil the surprise. I'll just say I called to pass the time of day. I won't even mention that I'm driving up this morning.
What a wonderful idea, Connie. When did you get it?
Twice.
Hello?
Mr. Boynton, Miss Brooks is calling you from the city.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Turner.
Go ahead, Miss Brooks.
Hello, Mr. Boynton?
Miss Brooks, my goodness, it's nice to hear from you.
I was just wondering how you're enjoying yourself. How's the weather up there?
Well, lately the weather's been pretty good.
Pretty good, 85 in the shade.
Please, Mr. Turner.
Well, you can't beat that kind of weather no matter where you go.
Mr. Turner.
Yes, Miss Brooks?
Goodbye.
Oh, goodbye.
Tell me, Miss Brooks, will you be able to get away for a bit of vacation before school opens?
Oh, I'm afraid not, Mr. Boynton. Looks like I'll be stuck in the city. Are you planning to stay on at the lodge for a while?
Yes, indeed. Planning to stay another week. Oh, it's heavenly here, Miss Brooks.
Oh, are the fish biting?
Mr. Turner.
I caught a whopper this morning, didn't I, Mr. Boynton?
Well, it was a pretty good-sized fish.
Pretty good. It was just the biggest trout you ever saw.
Actually, it was a pickerel.
You call a fish with those markings a pickerel? I'm surprised at your ignorance, Boynton.
Now, just a minute, Mr. Turner. I happen to be a biology teacher, and I know my fish.
Well, you don't know my fish. I've been fishing in these parts for 20 years.
15 of them have gone by since I got on the phone. Now, will you please let me continue my conversation?
And who might you be, Missy?
The name is Brooks, as in trout. Now, will you please let me talk to my party?
Of course, of course. Who was it you were calling again?
Mr. Boynton.
I'll put you right through.
Thanks. Hello, Mr. Boynton?
Well, hello, Miss Brooks.
Gad, it's good to hear your voice again.
That goes double with me. Ah, gosh. You know, when I was out canoeing last night, with the moonlight dappling the lake with patches of silver, I got to thinking. Thinking about you, Miss Brooks.
About me, Mr. Boynton?
Yes. I couldn't help thinking that...
I'm afraid I have another call on the board. Will you forgive me if I tear myself away for a minute?
Tear to your heart's content, Mr. Turner. Mr. Boynton, you were thinking?
Of how long it's been since I've seen you. I can't tell you how much I've missed you.
Oh, sure you can. Just tell me quickly before the offstage mystery voice comes back. Come on, Mr. Boynton, tell me.
Well, this may sound rather brash coming from me, Miss Brooks, but...
Yes, Mr. Boynton?
Gosh, I suppose I could tell you if I were with you, but over the phone, I don't know if I should.
Oh, go ahead. I'll hold my ear.
Oh, what's the use? I'll have to tell you some other time, Miss Brooks.
I suppose so. But before we hang up, Mr. Boynton, you are definitely staying at Crystal Lake for another week.
Well, that's my plan, Miss Brooks. I certainly appreciate your calling me like this. I'll admit I was quite surprised when I heard it was you, but, well, I've always liked surprises.
Well, you'd better. I like surprises, too, Mr. Boynton.
Well, I guess I'd better say goodbye, Miss Brooks.
Oof wheezes at goodbye, Mr. Boynton.
Well, what are you trying to do, Boynton? Bust my eardrums?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Turner. There's something I've got to tell you right away. I'd like you to prepare my bill.
Your bill?
Yes, I've decided to drive down to the city and surprise Miss Brooks.
Friends, if you suffer from acid indigestion, I hope you didn't miss reading this wonderful news. A headline that says, New mints, medically proven, quickly rid stomach of gastric distress. That headline is talking about new Bicidol mints. Doctors recommend Bicidol mints because the Bicidol medication acts at once to make painful acid harmless and give you fast 5-way relief. 1, speeds relief from gas. 2, sweetens your breath. 3, gives complete, longer-lasting relief than baking soda. 4, relieves stomach upset from too much eating, drinking, smoking. 5, lets you sleep when acid indigestion strikes at night. So don't suffer acid indigestion, heartburn, or gastric distress from excess acidity. Remember, new mints, medically proven, quickly rid stomach of gastric distress. And remember the name, Bicidol mints. Bisodol. Get Bicidol mints for fast relief. Well, once Miss Brooks made what she thought was certain that Mr. Boynton was staying out at the Beaver Lodge, she finished packing her bags and sat down for another cup of coffee when the kitchen door opened.
Hi, Miss Brooks. It's me.
Harriet Conklin, what are you doing in town? I thought your folks had a cottage up at Crystal Lake.
Well, they have, Miss Brooks, and I've been there all summer, but I just came down to surprise Walter Denton. Golly, you know how I feel about Walter. He's my Mr. Boynton.
Really? Who's mine?
I just ran into Walter and Stretch down at the gas station. They told me they're getting your car in shape for your trip up to the lake.
Well, what's keeping them? They've been gone almost 2 hours, and they were just supposed to get it gassed and oiled.
Well, I heard Stretch say that it needed some minor repairs.
Minor repairs? What happened?
The rear end fell out.
Oh, well, thank heaven it's nothing serious.
Oh, gee, it'll be good to have a date with Walter again. Daddy hasn't let me see much of him this summer. Gosh, sometimes Daddy acts like a principal even when he isn't in school. He's so stern and, well, you know how he is, Miss Brooks.
Let's not dwell on it.
He's very conscientious, though. Why, he came into the city just to get some reports out to the Board of Education. Poor Daddy's been working like a dog.
Poor Daddy's had a partner. I'm the one who's been typing those reports.
I know, Miss Brooks. Daddy said he dropped by for them this morning. You see, he was with me when I ran into Walter and Stretch.
Oh, dandy.
Well, Connie, Oh, hello, Harriet.
Hello, Mrs. Davis. What kind of a summer have you had?
About 2 months, dear. What brings you down to the city?
Oh, I was lonesome for Walter, so I phoned him and asked him to ask his sister Betty to ask her mother to ask my mother if I could spend the weekend with her.
From the picture, if you're asking, I'm dancing.
She said okay, so here I am.
Well, good for you, dear. Now, Connie, I prepared a little snack for you to take along on the trip. I just put it in this lunchbox for you.
Well, all I need now is a car. Those boys don't get back soon. Maybe that's them. Maybe that's they. Here they come now.
It is I, Miss Brooks, your faculty comrade, Osgood Conklin.
Oh.
Do I detect a note of dejection in your greeting to me?
Oh, not at all, Mr. Conklin. Come in, won't you?
Thank you. I hope I'm wrong, but it seems to me that when you first laid eyes on me, your face fell about a foot.
It's just that I have a very heavy lower jaw. Those papers you wanted to write here on the hall table. Yes, sir? All you have to do is scoop 'em up and scat.
Well, not so fast, my dear. I understand you're going on a little trip today?
Me? Oh, yes. Yes, I am.
Well, I'm going back to Crystal Lake myself this afternoon.
All by yourself, eh? Should be a nice trip.
Well, I was hoping not to go by myself. You see, Mrs. Conklin has our car up at the lake. I came down here by bus, and my getting back poses quite a problem.
What's the problem? Doesn't the bus that brought you down turn around?
There's only one bus today, and it left an hour ago. Now, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but if you'd resort to a bit of subtle wheedling, I think you could talk me into making the trip with you.
With me? Oops, there goes that jaw again.
Of course, if you really don't want me to accompany you, you have but to say the word. And I don't want you to be influenced by the fact that you're merely a teacher and I am your principal. A man in whom the superintendent of schools has vested the power to make your life in the coming term a pleasant, easy-going one or a miserable one.
Say, I'm driving up to Crystal Lake today. How about coming along,
Well, thank you, Miss Brooks. This is a very pleasant surprise.
Perhaps you'd better go home and pack, Mr. Conklin. Then when the boys bring...
I'm already packed. I left my bags out in your driveway so we can stow them away as soon as your car arrives.
But I don't know just when that'll be. Walter and Stretch are having it fixed, and...
I see. That's them. That's they. That's... Here they come now.
Hiya, Miss Brooks. We got everything all... Oh, Mr. Conklin.
You've got a heavy jaw, too, haven't you?
Hi, Mr. Conklin. What are you doing in the city? Giving your wife a vacation?
Oh, boy, that's a good one. Giving your wife a vacation. Oh, did you hear that, Miss Brooks?
Silence! Is the car ready to roll?
Yes, sir. We charged the bill, Miss Brooks. Everything's in 1A shippy shape.
Hi, Daddy. Glad you finally got here. Walter, dear.
Hi, Harriet. Dear.
Oh, fudge.
Well, Osgood, come on in.
Hello, Margaret. We haven't time for the amenities now. I'd like to get started for the lake. Miss Brooks is driving me up.
Now, isn't that nice?
Yes, it isn't it? Come on, Mr. Conklin. We'll go back through the kitchen. It's closer to the rear of the driveway.
Very well.
Thanks for getting my car ready, kids. I'll see you in a week.
There's your lunchbox, Connie. Oh, dear, she's out back by now. I'll give it to her when they pull out of the driveway.
Come on, Stretch, Walter. Let's all stand at the curb and wave goodbye to him.
Yeah, Harriet, okay. Come on.
Yeah, I'm coming. Well, here we are.
Hello, folks. Why are you all standing out here?
Mr. Boynton.
What are you doing here?
Well, I came down to surprise you, Miss Brooks.
She'll be surprised, all right. She's just leaving for Crystal Lake with Mr. Conklin.
Yeah, but I don't understand. She said she couldn't get away from...
Hey, look! They're pulling out of the driveway now.
Goodbye, Daddy. Goodbye, Miss Brooks.
Goodbye, Harriet.
Oh, Connie, you forgot your lunchbox. Oh, here it is, dear.
Oh, thanks, Mrs. Davis.
Goodbye, Miss Brooks, Mr. Conklin.
Goodbye, Stretch.
Goodbye, Stretch.
Goodbye, Miss Brooks. Goodbye, Walter.
Goodbye, Miss Brooks.
Goodbye, Mr. Boynton. Goodbye, Mr. Boynton.
I drove down to surprise you, Miss Brooks.
But I thought
You
were
and
out.
Boynton will have ample opportunity to socialize when school opens. Now drive on, Miss Brooks.
But, sir...
Goodbye, Boynton!
Goodbye, Miss Brooks.
Goodbye, Mr. Boynton.
Well, last we're on our way. Crystal Lake, here we come, eh, Miss Brooks?
Rah, rah, rah.
We should accomplish plenty over this weekend. I've taken considerable paperwork with me. Nothing like getting it done in the country, though. I can see it now. Me lying in a hammock and you typing in the bright sunshine.
Well, if that's the case, I'd better pick up some sunglasses.
Goodbye,
Goodbye, Mr. Boynton.
Goodbye, Miss Brooks.
What is this, a merry-go-round? We've left this place twice already. Now drive on at once, Miss Brooks.
Just a moment, please. There's really nothing to keep me in the city, Miss Brooks, so if there are no objections, I'll be happy to ride back to the lake with you.
Well, I have an objection.
Overruled.
So are you. The back of this heap is loaded with luggage, and 3 in the front would make for an extremely uncomfortable journey. Besides, among our luggage, you will note that there is a typewriter, which Miss Brooks and I shall use at the lake for official school business. This, then, is a business trip. Isn't it, Miss Brooks?
It's no pleasure.
But I still think
As your principal and superior officer, I order you not to set foot in this car.
Well, I can't very well disobey an order. Goodbye, Miss Brooks.
Goodbye, Mr. Boynton. Well, what do you know? I forgot to take the brake off.
If you don't get us off this street,
Yes, sir. We're getting right now.
I hope you know the road. I won't brook any further delays.
Oh, yes, sir. I know this terrain very well. I've driven up several times.
Oh, good, good. Then maybe I can take a little nap. Cars always make me sleepy. You won't mind if I drop off?
Mind, he says. You go right ahead, Mr. Conklin.
You know, Mrs. Conklin usually hums something before I fall asleep. Gotten sort of accustomed to it. Do you suppose you could hum a little tune for me, Miss Brooks?
I suppose so. I'm quite a good hummer, especially when I'm happy.
Fine, fine. Then suppose you start now. Hum something appropriate to the occasion.
All right. Let's see. I'll be glad when you're bum-de-bum-bum-bum. I'll be glad when you're bum-de-bum-bum-bum.
Say, that's quite a catchy tune. What's the name of it?
The name of it? Oh, it's called I'll Be Glad When You're Mine, You Doll-Face You.
Our Miss Brooks will return in a moment. If you're a driver, pat yourself on the back. For surviving this most difficult summer of highway carnage, you deserve a pat on the back. But you do even better to hold off the self-congratulations until this present holiday weekend is history. Labor Day is your last big test before the official end of summer. Of course, there are more tough driving weekends ahead as people get in their last outings before cold weather. They'll test you, too. On second thought, let's withhold all congratulations until after the first cold snap. We wouldn't want you to get too cocky and celebrate your summer survival with an accident this weekend or on one of the upcoming ones. Satisfied with your performance on the road? Don't stop at that. Work to become a perfectionist on the highway. Be good enough to foresee a possible accident with a driver who is reckless or thoughtless. And give him plenty of room on the road. So when his time comes, it doesn't happen with you in the accident, too. CBS Radio suggests, when driving on our overcrowded highways, especially on these holiday weekends, drive to survive.
Well, since Mr. Boynton surprised me by returning to town, I was hardly in the mood to chauffeur Mr. Conklin up to Crystal Lake. But he insisted that I drive, so drive I did.
Well, I've had quite a nice snooze. How long have we been driving, Miss Brooks?
About a half hour. If you don't mind, Mr. Conklin, I'd like to stop and powder my nose.
Of course. Where are we now?
Now?
Stop that yammering! Miss Brooks, this conduct is unforgivable. If you think...
Miss Brooks, quick, get out and look at your exhaust pipe. I think it's loose.
All right, Walter. Just sit still, Miss Conklin. This won't take a minute.
If you don't get a move on, Miss Brooks, you'll wish you had never seen Madison High.
I'll hurry, sir.
Miss Brooks, I got an idea. If you'll just pretend that you banged your head on the fender while you're looking at the exhaust pipe, you can say that you feel faint and that you can't drive. Then you'll get to stay here with Mr. Boynton.
But how can I bang my head on the fender?
Stoop a little. I'll help you.
Well,
lower.
I don't know, Walter.
Lower. There. That's just right. Hey, Miss Brooks hit her head on the fender. Mrs. Davis, hurry. I think Miss Brooks is going to faint.
Can I be of any help? Miss Brooks, speak to me. Speak to me.
Later.
Come on, let's get her into the house. Give us a hand, Stretch. Come on.
Sure, Walter. Just lean on my arm, Miss Brooks. Now, right up to walking into the house.
What's going on here? Why are you going into the house, Miss Brooks?
Oh, she's in bad shape, Mr. Conklin.
But how will I get to Crystal Lake?
Oh, take my car, Mr. Conklin. You're very welcome to it.
But I can't drive this old-fashioned gear shift.
Please quit jabbering, Mr. Conklin. We got a sick cookie on our hands.
In you go, dear. Now close the door, boys.
So far, it's working great.
Oh, this is no time for laughing, Walter. Gosh, look at that welt on your head, Miss Brooks. I'll go get some iodine and a glass of water.
But Stretch, let me explain.
Put her on the couch, Miss Davis. I'll be right back.
Perhaps you'd better lie down, Connie.
Yeah, then if old Marblehead, Mr. Conklin, comes in, it'll look legitimate.
Miss Brooks, are you feeling any better?
No, Harriet. I'm afraid I can't be moved. Please tell your father I'm sorry this happened.
Oh, I can't tell him anything now, Miss Brooks. Daddy just drove off for Crystal Lake in your car.
But the gear shift, he said he can't drive my car.
He can't. So he ordered Mr. Boynton to drive.
What?
Here, Miss Brooks, here's the iodine and a glass of water.
Keep the water, Stretch. I'll drink the iodine straight.
Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, transcribed, was produced and directed by Larry Burns, written by Al Lewis and Joe Quillen, with the music of Wilbur Hatch. Mr. Conklin was played by Gail Gordon. Others in tonight's cast were Jane Morgan, Dick Crenna, Bob Rockwell, Gloria McMillan, Leonard Smith, and Bob Sweeney. Be sure to be with us next week for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks. Now, Anacin, the tablets thousands of physicians and dentists recommend for fast relief of pain of headache, neuritis, neuralgia, and heat. The liniment that's strong yet does not burn. Present Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. It's time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks transcribed. But first, if you suffer from the pains of a headache, we urge you to try the remarkable product this program features, Anacin. Anacin is like a doctor's prescription. That is, Anacin contains not just one, but a combination of medically proven active ingredients. The relief these tablets bring is not only effective, but often incredibly fast. Many of you, I know, first discovered Anacin through your own dentist or physician. But if you have not yet used Anacin, we urge you to try these tablets the next time you are in pain from a headache, neuritis, or neuralgia. You'll be delighted with the results. Try Anacin on this guarantee. If the first few tablets do not give you all the relief you want, as fast as you want it, return the unused portion and your money will be refunded. You can get Anacin at any drug counter. It's ANACIN. Easy-to-take Anacin tablets come in handy boxes of 12 and 30 and economical family-size bottles of 50 and 100. Well, the majority of our public schools start their fall semesters tomorrow. But our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, decided to go back last Friday. At breakfast, her landlady asked the reason.
Why are you going down to school this morning, Connie?
Oh, I don't know, Mrs. Davis. There are several reasons, I guess. I like to get my desk in order and see that the blackboards are all clean and ready. Besides, I won't be the only teacher at school this morning. A certain biology laboratory has to be put in shape for the coming term, too.
I see. And there's a certain biology teacher going to do the putting in shape?
That's right.
A certain male biology teacher?
Mm-hmm.
A certain male biology teacher named Philip Boynton?
Whee!
I might have known. You get a different look when you just start thinking of him. A sort of golden light floods your eyes at the mention of his name. It's like somebody stuck a fork into 2 poached eggs.
What a pretty thought, Mrs. Davis. But I am fond of the bashful brute. Pass the cream, please.
Here you are, dear.
Thanks. Oh, may I have the sugar, please?
Here it is.
If only he'd come out of his shell. He's so retiring. He doesn't seem to realize how handsome and charming he is.
Now, please, Connie, stop thinking about Mr. Boynton. It's preventing you from eating a proper breakfast.
What? What makes you say that?
You've just drunk a cup of sugar and cream without coffee.
Well, no wonder it tasted so sweet and white. But there's something else that's been on my mind lately. I ran into some teachers the other day, and there's a rumor that some changes are going to be made in our faculty.
Oh, nonsense, Connie. These silly rumors start flying around before every new term. Why, down at the Ladies' League luncheon the other day, I even heard that Mr. Conklin might be leaving Madison.
What? But without Mr. Conklin as our principal, Madison wouldn't be... Well, it just wouldn't be a high school anymore.
What would it be?
A paradise. I mean, who told you about his leaving?
Nobody told me. It was just mentioned in passing, along with a lot of other scuttle, if you'll excuse the expression, but...
What a charming colloque, if you'll excuse the expression, quealism. I guess I'll find out more about the situation at school today. Walter Denton's driving me down this morning.
Oh? What's wrong with your car?
I had a little trouble with the drive shaft yesterday.
What happened to it?
It fell down an open manhole. It was nice of you to pick me up this morning, Walter.
It is a labor of love, oh fair one. Besides, I promised to help Harriet Conklin get things straightened out at school.
Oh, is Harriet coming in today, too?
Yes, ma'am. I'm picking her up on our way down. She always likes to help old Marblehead, her dad, get things ready before school officially opens.
Yes, I know, but how come she isn't driving down with him?
There are cars in the repair shop. The bottom of the motor's all ripped up. Seems some idiot left a drive shaft sticking out of an open manhole.
Well, it takes all kinds of drivers to make a world, don't I? How's Mr. Conklin been acting lately, Walter?
Oh, awful. Even for him. Harriet told me yesterday he's been tense and irritable all week long.
Well, that's par for the course, isn't it? What do you suppose he's worried about?
You got me. All I know is that with the school term starting on Monday, he'll probably make our lives a...
Walter.
Inferno's the word I had in mind.
Well, that's a little cooler.
Now, here's the house, Miss Brooks. I'll go up on the porch and get Harriet, Miss Brooks. You wait right here.
All right, Walter. Tell Harriet to hurry. It's almost 10:15 Boynton. 10.
Hi, Walter. You timed it just right.
Hi, Harriet. Hello, Mrs. Conklin.
Good morning, Walter. It's very sweet of you to call for Harriet like this.
It's a labor of love, Mrs. Conklin. Is old Marble... Is Mr. Conklin going with us?
Well, I don't know if he's quite ready, Walter. Just a moment, I'll call him. Oh, I'm good. Do you want to ride down to school?
Who's driving?
I am, Mr. Conklin. Me, sir. Me, Walter Denton.
Me, walk.
Well, it's just as well. Daddy's been in a pretty bad mood lately. The walk will do him good.
Okay, let's get started, Harriet. See you later, Mrs. Conklin.
Bye, Mother. I'll be back as soon as I help Daddy get Madison organized. All right, dear.
Have they gone?
Yes, Osgood.
Good. There's something I'd like to tell you about, my dear. Something I wouldn't want blabbed all over town.
Oh, now, Osgood, that's no way to talk about your own daughter. Harriet never gossiped.
I was not referring to Harriet. I'm talking about her idiot consort. If there ever was a marblehead, it's that boy. However, what I wanted you to know is that your husband, Osgood Conklin, principal, may soon be Osgood Conklin, assistant supervisor of schools in this area.
No.
Well, it's not definite, of course. As a matter of fact, I just read of my predecessor's transfer. But it shouldn't take the board long to pick out his successor.
Do you really think you've got a chance, Osgood?
Chance? What other principal has a better chance? The job requires tact, charm, diplomacy, and intelligence.
You really think you've got a chance, Osgood? I mean, if you are selected, when will you find out about it?
Probably within the next few days. That's why I'm going into school today to clean up my office top to bottom. Never know when the head of the board might drop in.
Oh, but that suit you've got on, it's practically in tatters.
Well, what do you expect me to wear around dirty desks and dusty files? My frock coat? Now, if you'll excuse me, my dear, I'll trot along to school.
Well, don't walk too fast, dear. Remember what Dr. Frank said. While you're on your diet, you mustn't exercise too strenuously.
Dr. Frank. It's Dr. Frank's fault that I've got to take off all this weight.
What do you mean?
Well, if he hadn't cleared up my ulcer 3 years ago, I'd never have gotten so stout. Well, food isn't everything.
Oh, before you go, dear, I'd like to ask a favor.
Yes?
Lucy Snodgrass phoned a little while ago and told me your washing machine is broken. Naturally, I offered to put her laundry in with ours this afternoon.
That should make our laundry very happy. What do you want me to do about it?
Well, Stretch Snodgrass, Lucy's boy, is coming down to school today to clean up the gym. He'll put the bundle in your office, and I'd like you to bring it home for me.
A charming assignment. Well, I'm leaving, Martha. You may kiss me now.
Thank you, dear.
At ease.
Well, here we are at school.
Dear old Madison. Oh, it's just heavenly to see your ivy-covered walls once again.
Steady, girl, steady.
You know, school isn't so bad when you just volunteer to come.
I'd better get right into Daddy's office and start cleaning up.
What's your hurry, kids? It's a beautiful day. Why don't we sit out here in the sun together and chat for a while?
If you say so, Miss Brooks.
Oh, good morning, folks.
Mr. Boynton.
So long, kids.
Come on. You can give me a hand with the closet.
You okay, my sweet? Adios, dear teachers.
Goodbye, Walter. Well, Miss Brooks, are you all ready to plunge into another school semester?
All I've got to do is hold my nose and jump in. How about you, Mr. Boynton?
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. But I have heard some rather disturbing rumors lately.
Rumors?
Yes. I heard that there's going to be some kind of a shake-up in the faculty this term. I hope it doesn't affect any of the teachers I know.
Like whom, Mr. Boynton?
Well, like Mr. DeWitt or Mr. Norman or Miss Enright.
Oh.
Of course, I didn't mention the one person whose dismissal would affect me the most.
And whose is that?
Mine. I couldn't afford to stay out of work for any length of time. It would work a considerable hardship on my family. They'd have to send me even more money than they do now.
My goodness. To hear you talk, anyone would think you were some kind of helpless moron instead of a brilliant, handsome, personable, capable scientist.
Who, me?
Yes, you. That's the way you should consider yourself always. What do you suppose would happen if you lost your job here at Madison? Do you think you'd have to pack your clothes in a bindle and become a hobo? Do you think you'd have to shuffle through life like this poor tramp coming toward us?
Well, no, but...
I should say you wouldn't. Why, you... Oh, excuse me, Mr. Boynton. I just got to give this poor old bum a few cents. Here you are, my good man. Get yourself a bowl of hot soup.
No, thanks. I just had breakfast.
Mr. Conklin. Oh, please forgive me, sir. I didn't recognize you in that old suit.
I am wearing it because I have a lot of cleaning up to do today.
Of course, sir. Miss Brooks didn't mean to.
No, she never does. Now, if you'll excuse me.
Oh, here you are, Daddy. I found this bundle of laundry in your office. Know anything about it?
Yes, Harriet. It belongs to Mrs. Snodgrass. I'm taking it home to your mother this afternoon. Now, for heaven's sake, let's get into school and clean out my desk.
Yes, Daddy. See you later, folks.
All right, Harriet.
Did you hear that, Mr. Boynton? He's going in to clean out his desk.
And those old clothes he was wearing. And taking laundry home to his wife.
He must be the one who's been canned. Dismissed.
Seems to add up all right. Poor Mr. Conklin. How could the board do such a thing?
All these years as a principal, and suddenly... You know, Mr. Conklin has irritated me on occasion, but if he's actually out of a job, well, it's hard to hate a man when he's down. This may not sound like me, Mr. Boynton, but I'm going to do everything in my power to show Mr. Conklin I'm behind him.
What are you going to do, Miss Brooks?
I'm going right in and help him clean out that office.
Friends, when you suffer torturous pain from rheumatism, muscle strain, or backache, you want relief fast. That's the time to reach for HEAT. H-E-E-T. HEAT. The liniment that's strong, yet does not burn. The moment you apply it, you can feel HEAT's soothing warmth working to relieve your painful miseries. That's because HEAT penetrates deep, brings immediate relief to sore, aching muscles. Wherever you ache, just brush on HEAT. HEAT penetrates deep, keeps working for hours to bring wonderful, soothing comfort to the painful, aching area. Your pain seems to disappear. HEAT isn't oily, sticky, or messy. You just brush on HEAT with a handy applicator that comes with each bottle, and it dries in seconds. So remember, when pain of rheumatism, muscle strain, or backache makes you miserable, HEAT's penetrating warmth gives you fast, long-lasting relief. Get HEAT, H-E-E-T, HEAT, the liniment that penetrates deep to bring immediate relief. Well, Miss Brooks was practically convinced last Friday that Mr. Conklin had lost his job as principal of Madison High. But knowing what a proud man he is, she refrained from mentioning it and spent the morning getting her classroom in order for the fall semester. About noon, she and Mr. Boynton headed for Marty's Malt Shop across the street.
But tell me, Mr. Boynton, have you confirmed our suspicions about Mr. Conklin's dismissal?
No, I haven't. I've been pretty busy getting the lab in shape. We could be wrong, you know. Well, here's Marty's.
Say, isn't that Stretch Snodgrass behind the soda fountain?
Oh, yes, it is. Well, since when has Madison's star athlete become a soda jerk?
Why not? He's a natural for the job. Let's go in,
Hello, Stretch. What's the good word?
Boy.
That's a pretty good word. How come you're working here, Stretch? I thought you came down to school to straighten out the gym.
Oh, I done that already.
Stretch, I did that.
Well, no wonder it looked so neat when I got there. I'm just minding this place till Marty gets back.
Where's Marty?
Well, he's out to lunch. Oh, but I'll take your order, folks.
He's out to lunch. What's wrong with the food he serves here?
Please, not while I'm ordering.
Oh, the food here's all right, but Marty likes a change once in a while. He's over at Cesanini's. It's an Italian restaurant. You know, a pizzeria.
A pizzeria?
Yes, ma'am. They fix veal a certain way he likes it.
Scallopini?
No, they only charge 40 cents a plate. We got a veal cutlet blue plate here today. It looks good. Comes with mashed potatoes and lima beans and includes dessert and coffee.
Oh, how much does that cost, Stretch?
Well, 6 bits. You think you'd like that, Miss Brooks?
Sounds fine, Stretch.
Okay. How about you, Mr. Boynton? You want some?
How much is 6 bits?
Oh, let's live dangerously, Mr. Boynton. Order it first and find out how much 6 bits is later.
Oh, I'll tell you now. 6 bits is just 3 2-bitsers.
3 2-bitsers?
Or 1 2-bitser and 1 4-bitser. Right, Stretch?
That's right. It adds up to 75 cents.
I see. How much is the pork chop blue plate?
Well, that's 65.
I'll take that.
I'll bring them both in 2 shakes of a lamb.
Good. About Mr. Conklin, if he hasn't lost his job here, I'd feel kind of foolish.
Oh, quiet, Miss Brooks. He just came in.
Oh, hello there. Getting a bite of lunch?
Yes, sir. Why don't you join us, Mr. Conklin? Sit right down here. Oh, Stretch.
Coming right up, folks. Here's your lunch. Oh, hi, Mr. Conklin. I'm pinch hitting for Marty today. What can I get you?
I'll have some cottage cheese. Just a small portion, please. About 15 cents worth. A glass of buttermilk. The 5-cent glass.
Gosh, is that all you're going to eat?
In my present condition, that is all I can afford to eat.
I'll get it for you right away, Mr. Conklin.
Say, did you hear that, Miss Brooks?
Yes, but it's hard to believe. After all, he's...
Well, don't wait for me, folks. Dig right in and eat your meat and potatoes. Vegetables. Well, they're nice and hot and delicious.
I knew it. He's hungry.
Move over. He'll bite you in a minute.
Hi, everybody. Feeding your assorted faces? Yeah. Oh, hello, Mr. Conklin.
Walter Denton.
Oh, there's room at this table, Walter.
Yeah, okay, I'll just help myself to some chow off the steam table and I'll be right over. Hey, Stretch, what's underneath this gooey-looking black barbecue sauce?
I don't know, Walter.
I'll take it.
If Denton is coming to this table, I'll sit at the farthest possible end of it.
But Mr. Conklin...
Please, I've little enough to eat. I might as well try to enjoy it.
Well, here we are. Guess what's under this sauce?
A bowl of noodle soup.
No, ribs, spare ribs. Oh, boy, what a dish.
Hey, mind if I join you, folks? I'm going to eat my lunch now, too.
Oh, not at all, Stretch. Sit right down here.
Well, thanks. First, I'll bring Mr. Conklin his cheese and buttermilk. There.
Thank you.
No, I'll park me and my hot dogs and sauerkraut and baked beans right over here.
No.
Mr. Boynton, we've got to do something about Mr. Conklin. He sounds like he's famished.
Well, maybe we could share some of our lunch with him.
Of course. Oh, Mr. Conklin, I've got a tremendous veal cutlet here. Wouldn't you like a piece of it?
No, thank you.
How about a nice pork chop, Mr. Conklin?
Can't touch them.
Walter, ask Mr. Conklin to have some of your spare ribs. I'm sure he likes those.
So do I.
I can't explain now, but your girlfriend's father's in a very bad way. He can't even afford a square meal.
What? Oh, gosh, I didn't know it was that bad. Well, I couldn't stand by and let a dog starve. How about a nice spare rib, Prince? I mean, Mr. Conklin. Mr. Conklin, want some of my spare ribs, sir?
No, thank you.
We just believe in share and share alike, sir, especially with our principal. You are our principal, aren't you?
Well,
Oh, Daddy, can you come over to your office right away? Mr. Stone is on the phone.
I'll be right there, Harriet. Tell him to hold on one moment.
Right, Daddy.
This is the call I've been expecting. Au revoir, my friend.
You mean you're leaving, Mr. Conklin?
I'll see you all before I go, I'm sure. Remember, everything happens for the best.
Then it's true. He's being fired.
Even Harriet didn't know about this. We've got to do something. If he's so broke that he can't even order a decent lunch, how's he going to feed his family?
Hey, I got an idea. Why don't we do what my mother done? Send laundry over to Mrs. Conklin. Hey, she's got a washing machine, and she could charge so much a bundle.
Yeah, we'll call on all our neighbors. I'm sure they'll be glad to help.
And we'll help Mrs. Conklin and Harriet do the laundry.
That's us. All for one and one for all.
In union, there is strength.
Old friends are the best friends.
Six Semper Soapy Suds.
Our Miss Brooks will return in a moment. Our Miss Brooks certainly does have her problems, but let's face it, we all do. They may not be as hilarious as hers, but we've got them. For instance, it's not possible for most of us to be at the scene of important happenings in world affairs. Maybe once or twice in a lifetime, Mr. and Mrs. Average Citizen will figure in a newsworthy experience. Beyond that, few of us participate in the world events that make the history books. This makes it impossible for the average man or woman to keep up with world affairs without help. The question of where to go for reliable help has been solved by CBS News. With eyewitness observers all around the globe, men who can fly without notice from their strategically central stations to wherever the news is happening, CBS News has complete coverage day and night throughout the week. You can come and go as you please, plan whatever plans you will, and always be sure that when you want to catch up with history, CBS News will catch you up on its earliest regularly scheduled news program. Solve your problem in keeping up with the news of the world by making CBS Radio your listening post. Well, due to a series of circumstances, everyone is convinced that Mr. Conklin is about to be fired and is practically destitute. So, in true musketeer spirit, they have rallied to his aid by securing all the laundry business in the neighborhood and bringing it to his house.
Oh, it's awfully nice of you to help out like this, but I can't help wondering what Mother will think when she gets back from her shopping trip.
It'll be a nice surprise for her, Harriet. We've got enough business here to tide Mr. Conklin over for 2 weeks.
Did you rig up the clothesline in the yard, Mr. Boynton?
I did. I also put some up in the living room. We'll need every inch of space we can get. Stretch is still out getting more bundles.
I had no idea Daddy was in such dire straits. Oh, but with friends like you, nobody could ever consider themselves poor.
A friend in need is a friend indeed.
Your problem is our problem.
If I've said it once, I've said it twice. Sic semper soapy suds.
Yeah, so you see, Osgood, the social duties that go with the position of assistant supervisor are most important.
Yes, well, that's why I brought you to my home, Mr. Stone. I want you to see for yourself what a charming background for entertaining Mrs. Conklin has furnished. Under my supervision. Right up these steps, if you please. Let's see now. Where's that key?
You realize that you'll be called upon to receive city officials as well as many of our most influential PTA members from time to time.
Oh, of course, of course. Ah, here we are. After you.
Oh, thank you. Now, what in the world is this? Sheets and towels hanging everywhere? Is this a laundry room?
Laundry room? Where? How could you... How you say it does look like one.
It looks like everybody's laundry.
Well, I can't understand this. Let's go into my den and Mr. Stone. Mr. Stone? Where are you, Mr. Stone?
I'm over here in the underwear department. Now, see here, Conklin, just what is the meaning of this?
I don't know anything about it, Mr. Stone, but I assure you, sir, that I...
Oh, hi, Mr. Conklin. Business is great. Here's 4 more bundles.
Snodgrass?
No time to kibitz with you now. I got to get some more stuff down the block. Oh, before I go, I'd like to remind you about that bundle my mom sent over. Whatever you do, don't put no starch in my running pants. I got to bend my legs getting over those hurdles, you know.
Wait right here, Mr. Stone. I'll get to the bottom of this at once. What the devil's going on here?
Oh, shucks. We wanted to surprise you, sir.
Surprise me? Shut that contraption off, Boynton!
Yes, sir.
Now speak, somebody, and speak quickly.
Well, we thought...
Shut up! Miss Brooks, what are you people doing here?
Trying to help make both ends meet, Mr. Conklin.
What both ends?
Your both ends. I mean, sir...
When we found out that you were fired, sir, we
Fired?
thought that...
I'm up for the most important job of my career. And the president of the Board of Education is standing in my living room right now, up to his neck in underwear.
Well, we only wanted to raise enough money so you could feed your family.
Shut up! Miss Brooks, while I'm composing myself, I want you to go into that living room and tell Mr. Stone you're completely to blame for this outrage.
Me? But how can I...
I don't care how, just do it. Because if I don't get this promotion, you'll never get me out of your hair. Now, Ma!
Yes, sir. Mr. Stone? Yoo-hoo! Mr. Stone?
Who's that?
Oh, it's me, sir, Miss Brooks.
Where are you? I can't seem to see you.
Oh, you'd have a better view, sir, if you'd just drop that little flap in front of you. I'll just walk around. You really must forgive the appearance of Mr. Conklin's living room, sir.
Why must I?
Because it's my fault. You see, my washing machine broke down, and Mrs. Conklin was kind enough to let me rinse out my personal things in here.
Do you expect me to believe that this laundry is all yours?
That's what I hope you'll believe.
But there are 24 bed sheets hanging here.
I have twin beds.
I see. And how do you explain the fact, Miss Brooks, that there are men's pajamas hanging here?
Pajamas? Well, I bought them for my hope chest.
16 pairs?
I got a lot of hope. Besides, I like to wear pajamas myself.
But these are all different sizes.
Well, sometimes I feel smaller than others. Right now, I could curl up in the cuffs. Look, Mr. Stone, there's no use my trying to deceive a clever man like yourself. I'd better tell the truth.
It's about time.
You see, we thought Mr. Conklin was about to lose his position as principal at Madison. So in order to help out until he got another job, we started this little laundry business in his home.
And who is we, Miss Brooks?
Another teacher and some of the students.
You mean you felt such an intense loyalty for this man that you all rallied around in his time of need?
He looked so hungry.
Well, I trust Miss Brooks has cleared this matter up to your complete satisfaction, Mr. Stone.
She certainly has, Osgood. As a matter of fact, she's been invaluable in helping me to arrive at a decision about our new assistant supervisor.
You mean I'm in?
No, Osgood, you're out. Any man who commands such respect and admiration from his colleagues is much too valuable, and he stays just where he is.
But, Mr.
No,
Stone...
that's my final word. Stay where you are, Principal Conklin. Good day.
Well, Miss Brooks.
I'm gonna wash that man right out of my head.
Starring Eve Arden, transcribed, was produced and directed by Larry Burns, written by Al Lewis with the music of Wilbur Hatch. Mr. Conklin was played by Gail Gordon. Others in tonight's cast were Jane Morgan, Dick Crenna, Bob Rockwell, Gloria McMillan, Leonard Smith, Paula Winslow, and Joseph Kearns. Be sure to be with us next week for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks. Now, Anacin, the tablets thousands of physicians and dentists recommend for fast relief of pain of headache, neuritis, neuralgia, and Bicidol mints that quickly rid stomach of gastric distress, present Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden. It's time once again for another comedy episode of Our Miss Brooks Transcribed. But first, believe anything you like about what this or that way to relieve pain of headache, neuritis, or neuralgia will do for you. But there is one important fact you can't get away from, and that is thousands of users of Anacin have been introduced to this remarkable product through their own physicians or dentists. These people know how incredibly fast and effectively Anacin acts to relieve pain. Anacin is like a doctor's prescription. That is, Anacin contains not just one, but a combination of medically proven active ingredients in easy-to-take tablet form. Next time you suffer from the pain of a headache, neuritis, or neuralgia, don't wait for relief. Try Anacin. You'll be delighted with these tablets' incredibly fast action. Try Anacin on this guarantee. If the first few Anacin tablets do not give you all the relief you want as fast as you want it, return the unused portion and your money will be refunded. All drug counters have Anacin in handy boxes of 12 and 30 tablets and economical family-size bottles of 50 and 100. I'll repeat the name for you, Anacin. A-N-A-C-I-N. Well, if persistence alone can earn a high grade, you've got to give our Miss Brooks, who teaches English at Madison High School, an A for effort. It's taken almost 6 years, but this weekend she arranged to have Mr. Boynton, Madison's shy biology teacher, all to herself.
Yes, indeed. This time I absolutely put my foot down. It was just Mr. Boynton and me and 500 delegates to the teachers' convention. You see, over the past weekend, a special meeting was held in Evanston to help celebrate American Education Week. I had persuaded Mr. Conklin, our beloved principal, to send me, along with Mr. Boynton, as Madison's representatives. And Friday morning, my landlady came into my bedroom just as I finished packing for the trip.
You know, Connie, it looks just like cowhide.
I know, I haven't put on my makeup yet. Oh, you mean the valise. It is nice, isn't it? I borrowed it from Mrs. Rapp down the street.
Have you got everything packed, Connie?
I think so. Let's see. The nightie Harriet Conklin loaned me is in, and Mrs. Conklin's negligee, that's in. Your nylon stockings are in. Yes, I've got my things all packed.
Good.
And just wait till you see the new suit I'm wearing for the occasion. Of course, I won't be able to put that on until 5:15 today.
Why not, Connie?
School? What's more, he isn't coming to school today.
What? But we're supposed to leave from here for the convention.
Yeah, I know it, Miss Brooks, and I know how devastated you'll be by the news, but Mr. Boynton won't be able to go to the convention. He's sick in bed.
Sick in bed? How do you know?
Harriet told me. He called in a little while ago and left a message with one of the teachers.
But how can I leave town if Mr. Boynton is sick? He has no more relatives in this part of the world than I have. Who'll take care of him?
Let me put your mind completely at ease, Miss Brooks. Harriet and I can run errands for Mr. Boynton. Besides, I'm sure Miss Enright will be glad to nurse him back to health.
Walter, you couldn't have put my mind more at ease if you'd told me my train was going to be bombed.
You're not exactly smitten with Miss Enright, are you, Miss Brooks?
Well, frankly, Walter, there isn't a lot of affection squandered between us.
Well, she always speaks highly of you, Miss Brooks. Why, just the other day, Miss Enright said the only reason she can't see a romantic attachment between Mr. Boynton and yourself is because of the difference in your ages.
Miss Enright said that?
Sure. Well, let's see now. What were her exact words? Oh, yeah, I remember. She said that in her opinion, Mr. Boynton was definitely old enough to be your kid brother.
Oh, she did she? Well, that makes my next step quite apparent. If you'll excuse me, Walter, I'm going right over to the principal's office.
What for?
I've got to see a man about a cap.
Come in.
Good morning, Mr. Conklin.
Don't come any closer, Miss Brooks.
But, sir,
If you take one more step, I'll call for help.
What in the world are you talking about, Mr. Conklin?
I've got my new glasses on, Miss Brooks, and I mean to protect them with my life.
Mr. Conklin, your glasses are reposing firmly on your nose, and I'm nowhere near you.
That is how it always starts. You weren't near me when you spilled that ink on my flannel suit either, or when you smashed my watch, or last month when you dropped the typewriter on my toes, or last week when you closed the office door on my nose.
Oh, I meant to ask you about that, Mr. Conklin. Was that door ever fixed?
You will be pleased to know, I'm sure, that thanks to your valiant efforts, I have become one of the poorest accident insurance risks in this part of the state. I won't draw an easy breath until you're on the train this afternoon. I presume you're packed and ready to go.
Yes, sir, and I'm really looking forward to it. This is the first convention I've attended since I represented Gordon High School 6 years ago. That was a lot of fun.
Well, you are not going to this convention to have fun, Miss Brooks. As Madison's standard bearer, our school will be judged by your actions. Always remember that.
Oh, I will, Mr. Conklin. You can depend on me, sir.
Friends, if you suffer from acid indigestion, I hope you didn't miss reading this wonderful news. A headline that says, "New mints, medically proven, quickly rid stomach of gastric distress." That headline is talking about new Bicidol mints. Doctors recommend Bicidol mints because the Bicidol medication acts at once to make painful acid harmless and give you fast 5-way relief. 1. Speeds relief from gas. 2. Sweetens your breath. 3. Gives complete, longer-lasting relief than baking soda. 4. Relieves stomach upset from too much eating, drinking, smoking. 5. Lets you sleep when acid indigestion strikes at night. So don't suffer acid indigestion, heartburn, or gastric distress from excess acidity. Remember, new mints, medically proven, quickly rid stomach of gastric distress. And remember the name, Bisodol Mints. Bisodol. Get Bisodol Mints for fast relief.
Well, when we sat down to lunch in the school cafeteria, I told Mr. Boynton that I suspected Miss Enright of deliberately saying he was ill so that I would withdraw and she could go in my place. At first, he refused to believe it of her, but finally his sense of justice was so completely outraged that he seemed beside himself with fury, and he violently shouted,
Maybe it was all a misunderstanding. Why should Miss Enright think you'd stay home from the convention even if I was sick in bed?
Because I would, that's why. Somebody would have to take care of you, get your medicine, and fix your meals, and see that you were made comfortable.
Miss Brooks, may I remind you that I'm not sick in bed?
Oh, I know that, Mr. Boynton.
Then would you mind not taking my pulse? I need this hand to finish my wax beans.
I still say that when people haven't any relatives in a place, it's up to the people who think something of people to do something for the people they think something of. Maybe I should teach Spanish.
I know you're disappointed about not attending the convention, Miss Brooks, but if you have any suggestions you'd like me to put before the meeting...
There's only one suggestion I'm worried about, and that'll come from Miss Enright to you.
Say, that's funny.
What?
You're mentioning Miss Enright. She's heading for this table now. Well, speak of the devil.
It's just the way she's wearing her hair. Uh-oh. She spotted us.
Oh, hello, Miss Brooks. Mr. Boynton, why aren't you home in bed?
His sheets caught on fire.
You know yourself, Miss Enright, that I only phoned to say that I might be delayed getting to school.
Delayed? Oh, I thought you said laid up.
You did? Now, you see, Miss Brooks, it was a misunderstanding.
Oh, of course. Like the one Custer had with those red. Tilly Eberhardt doesn't get home from work until then.
You're terribly excited about this weekend trip, aren't you, dear?
Oh, of course, Mrs. Davis. This is quite an important convention. I'll get an opportunity to exchange ideas and opinions with other people in my line of work. I'll get an opportunity to see what's being accomplished at other schools.
What else will you get, Connie?
I'll get all my expenses paid and a whack at Mr. Boynton.
That will be nice. You and Mr. Boynton seeing strange places and strange faces together.
The strange places are all right, but the strange faces can go to the races.
There's one thing that puzzles me, Connie. Knowing your relationship with Mr. Conklin, how did he happen to choose you as a delegate?
Well, it's very simple, Mrs. Davis. Remember 2 weeks ago, Mr. Conklin got himself a new gray flannel suit?
Yes, indeed. His wife, Martha, told me he spent a small fortune on it.
I'm glad it was a small fortune. I spilled a small bottle of ink on it Monday.
You didn't.
He now has gray flannel pants and a very sporty blue jacket. Anyway, on Tuesday, he left his wristwatch on his desk, and I accidentally brushed it to the floor while I was picking up some papers. Then when I bent down to get it, I broke the crystal.
But a crystal is easily repaired.
Not when you break it by putting your heel through the back of the watch.
But, Connie, I don't understand. Why did Mr. Conklin pick you for the convention this weekend?
Well, I was just getting to that, Mrs. Davis. You see, Mr. Conklin's buying a new pair of glasses this morning, and he wants to give them a 3-day head start.
Sounds logical. Well, I know another English teacher at Madison who'll be mighty disappointed that she's not going on this trip.
You mean Miss Enright?
I do. She's almost as sweet on Mr. Boynton as you are. And this weekend trip would be a wonderful opportunity for her to cut you out with him.
Please, Mrs. Davis, I just got up. Why talk about nightmares? No more pencils, no more books, no more...
Wait for me, Miss Brooks.
Well, Walter Denton, why didn't you pick me up this morning? You know my car's in the repair shop.
So's mine. Yesterday when I started for home, it happened.
What happened?
As soon as I stepped on the starter, the exhaust pipe blew the rest of the car into Hirsch's Meat Market.
That's awful, Walter.
Yeah, anyway, I'm glad I caught you before you dropped into Mr. Boynton's biology lab.
What made you think I was going to drop into the biology lab?
Yo, please, Miss Brooks, it's too early in the morning for quips. Yeah, what I meant was I thought I could save you from a big disappointment.
Oh, that's all right. I'm used to him by now. I mean, what kind of disappointment?
Mr. Boynton isn't in school.
I won't get myself thrown into jail this time.
Jail? You mean you were thrown into jail at your last convention?
Oh, for the most absurd reason, Mr. Conklin. Can you imagine being locked up for riding around on a motorcycle?
Well, that's hardly a jail offense.
That's exactly what I told the policeman. Besides, he wasn't using it at the time anyway.
You took a policeman's motorcycle?
It was just a lark, sir. There was absolutely no reason for them to put that picture in the paper.
What picture?
A picture of me holding up a burlesque queen in the drunk tank.
Miss Brooks, you can start unpacking at any time. You are not going to the convention.
Not going? But, Mr. Conklin, think of your new glasses.
My glasses will have to live dangerously like the rest of my person.
But if you don't send me, sir, who will you send?
Well, I haven't given it any thought. Have you any suggestions?
I haven't given it any thought either, Miss Enright.
Miss Enright might be just the person. She has poise, bearing. Do you think she'll relish the idea of going?
Believe me, Mr. Conklin, when you tell her about it, she'll be so happy she'll clap her paws in glee. Now, if you'll excuse me, sir, I'll get to my classroom.
Very well, Miss Brooks.
Thanks a lot.
Well, good morning, Miss Brooks.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Boynton. Wait till you hear the news. I was just in Mr. Conklin's office. Mr. Boynton, what are you doing up? Go right home and get back into bed at once.
Bed? What for? I'm not sick.
You're not?
No, I never felt better in my life.
What a revolting development this is. Walter told me that Harriet said you were sick in bed.
Harriet? Well, I didn't talk to Harriet. When I phoned the school this morning, I thought I was going to be delayed at the biology supply house. So I left that message with one of the teachers.
What teacher?
Miss Enright.
I should have said which teacher. And she's a witch teacher if I ever saw
Do you suppose she could have confused the words delayed with laid up?
Oh, there's no confusion at all. This is the result of careful calculations. Miss Enright knew that Harriet would tell Walter, also that Walter would, if he saw me, and that's customary, he'd almost be sure to, tell me, and then knowing what she would do, or thinking she know what I would do, she told Harriet what I later heard from Walter, and then I did what she thought I'd do.
Miss Brooks, are you all right? Why are you speaking in such jerky sentences?
There's a very good reason, Mr. Boynton. I have just been completely taken in by a very jerky teacher.